What's up guys, it's Lonely MMA and today we're going to be doing the top 5 most sensitive fighters in the UFC. And as always, let's make sure our terms are correct. By sensitive, I don't just mean, oh, they cry a lot. I'm more so talking about the dudes who just get so overly offended by the littlest things and the dudes who just cope over everything. Sort of like that one friend you have who when everyone is just going around roasting each other, you'll be like, hey dude, you should probably take off that neon highlighter shirt. You're scaring all the pussy away looking like a highlighter. And they'll come back at you, be like, oh yeah, well that's why your grandma died last month. And you'll be like, dude, chill. All I said was that you look like a highlighter. That's sort of the kind of stuff I'm talking about today. But without further ado, let's get right into it. But coming in at number 5, I got Dana White. Honestly, I made this list with 4 fighters really in mind and didn't want to try and force another fighter onto this list. And I thought Dana White would be the perfect fit because he is one of the most sensitive dudes on this planet. Like, just the way that he will passive-aggressively respond to any reporter's question, it makes me wonder why he even does those post-fight interviews, because the only time he's ever talking in, like, a decent tone is when he's talking about himself. Like that one reporter who called him out for using AI in his thing. Now, I'll be honest, as a UFC fan, I don't really care if they use AI or not, but I would definitely prefer them to actually hire artists who are really talented to make their work for them instead of just typing in a prompt, especially for a card that's taking place on the White House lawn and is supposed to be one of the biggest sporting events ever. And of course, Dana White's response is just, oh, you pussies again. AI's coming and you can't do anything about it, Buster. And I absolutely hate Ariel Helwani, let me get that out the way, but the way Dana White handled the whole thing with him leaking the UFC 200 Brock Lesnar return was just some of the weirdest shit ever. And especially when you look at it now, when every pay-per-view main event gets leaked before they announce it. And like, for example, the McGregor vs. Holloway matchup at 170 is one of the most random fights you possibly could have made, and everyone knew it was going to happen because someone leaked it. And oh my god, I hate when Dana White does stuff so on purpose that it's obvious, and then he'll try and act like, huh, why would we care about what those people are doing? Like with him releasing the McGregor return during Ngannou's walkout. But enough with this guy, let's get on to the actual fighters. Coming in at number 4, I got Jamal Hill. Now Jamal Hill respectably won the title and then vacated it because he got hurt and he knew he was going to be out for a while and didn't want to hold up the entire division. Pereira goes on to win his belt and then finally he gets a chance to get his belt back, fighting Pereira on the main event of UFC 300. And he gets knocked out in the first round, and ever since then, the cope has been through the roof. He just could not let it go. Now, admittedly, people don't like to admit this for some reason, especially Pereira fans, but the knockout was just objectively strange. It wasn't your typical knockout. Like, the fact that Pereira got low kicked, Herb Dean, like, semi-stopped the fight, and then Pereira just, like, sort of waved him off, and then threw his next punch to knock Jamal Hill out, was pretty odd. So I could see that angle, and Jamal Hill just maybe once or twice being like, yeah, it sort of caught me off guard what happened. But the amount of times Jamal Hill has talked about it since it's happened has just been through the roof. Because by the way Jamal Hill talks about it, you would think that Alex Pereira used his dark magic to summon a piano to fall from the roof and land on Jamal Hill's head during the fight, and that's how he won. And there's like a few fan instances where people would go up to Jamal Hill, like that dude who was impersonating Yuri, and Jamal Hill was like just sort of like being weird about it.
I'm gonna be honest. Like I've been told that because he doesn't speak English. You know, his translator in the translation sometimes can be misconstrued in what he's saying and things like that. But if that is truly what he said, he literally just said that that the kick didn't hit him. It wasn't a low blow for real. He signaled to the ref. He literally said I signaled to let the ref know that he kicked me so that I can keep an eye on it. So Herb Dean.
But on to the next one, coming in at number 3. This one's going to get a lot of people mad, but please listen to me when I say I am one of the biggest Dustin Poirier fans on this planet. But when it comes to his interactions with his opponents, it's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like 99% of other fighters seem to have this thing in their head where they know that all the talk going on before their fight is just their opponent trying to sell the fight and they don't really mean any of it. And after the fight, they're just going to be cool. They just went to war with each other. They have mutual respect. But not Dustin Poirier. Because if you look at his Dan Hooker fight, the dudes go to absolute war, have one of the greatest fights in the apex of all time. And even after the fight, Dustin is still going up to him, trying to shit talk him, because Dan Hooker said he was going to smash his face in a few weeks before the fight. And you can also look at the Michael Chandler one, where after their fight, Dustin just chokes him out. He goes up to Michael Chandler. He's like, this is my house. This is my house. And oh my god, this is my all-time favorite UFC moment. When Michael Chandler says, Madison Square Garden's your house, and he just completely starts rage baiting him. God, all-time moment right there. That's what you really call going out on your shield. Coming up next, though, I got Khalil Roundtree. Khalil Roundtree strikes me as the type of friend who, when you insult them, you immediately after have to try and, like, cheer them up. Like, oh, no, I was just kidding. It was just a joke. You have to do all that kind of stuff so they don't go home after. Or the type of dude who will unadd you or unfollow you on Instagram when you get into an argument with them and you're just like, dude, we're grown-ass men and you're unadding me on Snapchat. And that's sort of what all the stories that I've heard about Khalil Roundtree sort of paint him to be like, especially the Sean Strickland ones where he just seems to be overly sensitive. And leading up to that Hamzat fight, Khalil Roundtree would go on that Jackson podcast. God, I just want to say, I hate that podcast more than Garfield hates Mondays. Because I kid you not, Khalil Roundtree, Luke Rockhold, all those guys would go on that podcast leading up to the Hamzat fight every day saying the same thing, saying Strickland has no chance to win. Hamzat's just levels above him. Strickland can't do anything to him. Then he does end up going out and wins, and then they're all like, well, in the rematch, it plays out a lot different. That wasn't my Hamzat. My Hamzat doesn't lose to Sean Strickland. That wasn't him. That was some CIA psyop that they put in the octagon to give Sean Strickland the win so US could be back on top. It's like, bro, shut up and just take your L. Lastly, though, I do just want to say this list is in no particular order, but coming in at number 1, we got Joe Pyfer. Like, yeah, I do agree that it's a little bit weird that if he really did have the hardest punch on record at the UFC PI, why they just didn't give it to him. But at the same time, it's like, dude, they hate Francis Ngannou. I'm sure they would have gladly gave it to you. And just by the way he was acting about it, I guarantee at the PI he probably took a chocolate bar out of his pocket, threw it on the ground, and started stomping his feet and crying when they told him that they weren't going to give him the record. And also, another thing about Joe Pyfer that I always thought he was just overly sensitive for was when that reporter asked him about his hairline's comeback.
One of the biggest comebacks in sports is your hairline. Do a lot of fighters ask you about it because it turned out really well?
I don't know if that's an insult or not.
No, that was a compliment.
I'm going to remember your face now.
That one's always been really funny to me, and that's really going to do it for today's video, I think. As always, let me know down below who you guys think some of the most sensitive fighters in the UFC are. And I do just want to say, this list is all jokes. If you're in the UFC, you definitely didn't get there by being sensitive. But that's all. Later.